Hey, welcome everybody. Coach BK with Coach D. Red. Okay, we're going to start today a 3-part series on stress. On the heels of, in my world, a shit show of a day. And so just kind of had a mental meltdown, and thus we are 17 minutes late. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have kind of a candid conversation about real world stress, and we're going to start it off like that, touch a little bit on specifics, and then Wednesday we're going to talk about the anatomy of the stress, and probably Thursday or something like that we're going to talk about in part 3 what to do about what we're talking about. So what's it like dealing with me as a stressed out person? Just say what you need to say.
I don't know. I mean, it can be frustrating, and the person that's stressed is frustrated. So trying to stay calm and help calm
Tony's saying be careful what you say.
Both of us trying to stay calm and understand the situation and overcome the situation is what's in hopes.
So the other day I asked him a question on, we were having a conversation, and I asked him, hey, so what's the thing that I do the most that kind of is not useful for growth in, life, the house life, and all this stuff. And, we have a lot of issues with the teenagers going on. And his response was that when I get angry, I get loud, I get mad. I'm sort of Gemini, German. But the bigger part of it is what we're going to talk about Wednesday. And it's when the stress response, that whole system gets overused, overtaxed, frayed. The person that is under stress has less ability to deal well. And I think that's more of what he's talking about, is my ability to deal well and maybe not yell at a teenager versus being calm and saying something useful, right?
When you get stressed out or you get angry, you're in a fight or flight type of situation, and all you can focus on is what has made you angry instead of maybe the bigger picture. I don't know. I mean, trying to stay calm and take a step back, take a breath, and if you want to talk something out, then do so. Or if you got a plan, if you got something going on that you need to take care of, take a step back, take a couple breaths maybe. I don't know. These are just suggestions.
So we'll talk about how to feed into more stress management type stuff, because stress is, a lot of people are saying nowadays, it doesn't matter what you eat. If you can't manage your stress well, it doesn't matter. And so in part 2, Wednesday evening, I'm going to talk a lot about what physiologically goes on when you get stressed. And so stress isn't something that you can get rid of. It's not meant to be gotten rid of, and you have an innate system that deals with stress. It's just this chronic, how we have life situated. Like Tony's here, and he has all good intentions of going to the gym and doing this and doing that and investing in making life changes. But then his job is kind of like constantly, putting other demands on him. And then so you have to make choices and whatnot, and that in and of itself is a source of stress, twofold, because, one, you have this surface kind of jerking you around and lack of power. But then on the underneath, that's probably a bigger stress, is that he's actually trying to take care of himself. He's trying to do things to better his life, and he's not able to. So that can be a source of stress for people. So I think that one of the biggest things that we need to do with stress is kind of acknowledge how important it is. And sometimes there are sneaky places where stress comes in at that we aren't quite aware of. So I'm working on this little questionnaire that talks about the 10 pillars of health. And it's all these little different things that can cause you stress. Like some people are so type A and organized that when their kitchen is a disaster, they are stressed out. Right?
Everybody has got, you got something that you're meticulous about, something that you strive to keep in good standing, perfection. Some people keep their car clean. Some people keep their kitchen clean. Some people keep their shoes straight. I don't know. Some people make sure that their laundry is folded a certain way in their drawers. There's lots of different things that can be something that they like to focus on, and it's a pet peeve when it gets messed up.
What stresses you out? Besides me getting stressed out.
I don't know. Putting me on the spot isn't good. It's not going to get a fast answer.
Okay, well, put that in your noggin and think about it.
Okay.
What stresses you out, okay? Right. Maybe you'll tell us Wednesday or a little bit later, okay? Okay. Just a real quick teaser on stress. So your body, and we'll cover this thoroughly Wednesday, your body has an innate system, and it's sort of like on two levels, meant for fight or flight to deal with stress. And stress comes in mental, emotional, physical, and then a lot of there's acute stress or one moment stress, but then chronic stress. And stress can be good. We've given stress kind of a bad name, and it's sort of kind of it's so candied. I don't know. It doesn't mean anything anymore when we say stressed. But stresses can be good. So when you're working out and you're wanting to get stronger, you can get stronger by providing a certain amount of stress. Endurance training, we stress the cardiovascular system and it gets better. Today I had an epic amount of stress, and he said something that was really awesome that got me through most of the day. What'd you say? Do you remember?
I don't.
Oh, he said that that I got this, but he said that these types of situations these days teach you composure. And then he told me to do a couple of things. And anyway, it was really good. It does teach you composure. Certain stressful events, certain, situations, this, like in the military, what do they do in basic training?
In a lot of training situations, they'll put you, they'll give you a task, and then they'll do other things around you, or have other things going on that kind of throws your track of your mind track off. And so keeping your composure and keeping your focus on the task at hand is what they're shooting for.
Why that skill?
Because if you stay on task and you keep it, it might have to be watching a certain area to for enemy activity, or it could be for making sure that if something is to grade, or it can make sure that something is done to its standard instead of just thrown together. Making sure, like a weapon, for instance, you're putting a weapon together, and if you don't get it put it together correctly because you weren't following your task and you don't do your functions check properly, you go down range and you try to use that weapon, it could end up hurting you instead of somebody else.
ultimately they're there to learn how to do their job well.
Yeah.
Whatever their job is.
Learn how to do the task well. Right. Their job, yeah.
Okay. An important job. You know, and folks that are nurses and, you know, firefighters and policemen. It'd be, yeah. They have critical jobs sometimes that rely on making a good decision at a very stressful moment. And so learning how to be under stress but manage it well is key. So when you're going through these stressful days, and after he said that, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to like learn and grow and be all stress guru by the end of today. That didn't happen. Well, it did, but it didn't. I kind of fell on my face a little bit for a second. But here we are. So, you know, stress is a real deal, and it can devastate your health, like completely wreck it. Like Ralph wrecked the internet, wreck it, like totally wreck it. Because it is a big deal. It is one of the most important systems you have in your body. It is one of the fastest systems in your body. That's what I mean by innate, your fight or flight. It works even when your brain is like sleeping. It's just always on point. And then we had an incident yesterday where our dogs had a little run-in with each other, and he was on a ladder doing stuff to the shed, and I was trying to manage the dogs in the yard, and he made a comment that he was surprised that he didn't react faster. And one of the things that happens when we're under a lot of chronic stress is that system, and I'll talk about it more on Wednesday, your system sets a new set point for if you are going through chronic stress. And when we're saying chronic stress, think about actually physically being in a car where you're pressing the gas, and you're going 45, 48 miles an hour all the time, when normal would be around 30, right? So this chronic stress can cause your body to set a different set point. I mean, literally calibrate something different. So then in order to get a response and a quick reaction, you need more, sort of like addiction a little bit, you need more stimulus, more cortisol, more this, more that, in order to get that quick response that you want, which is kind of interesting thought. So then how do we reset those set points? It's just so super sort of cool, but really completely devastating to your health. That stress, chronic stress causes, let me read off the list to you real quick. We'll talk about it more Wednesday. It's ridiculous, the list. Where the heck's it at?
Something to add to that, you know, like you were talking about the speed, you know, if your mind is supposed to be going at 30 miles per hour, like you were saying, and you're doing 48, you might miss things because things are going so fast that you miss some of the things. And then what seems to be normal at that speed is not a quick reaction situation, kind of like outside yesterday.
Which is a super duper interesting follow along, like with police people, fire people, military. They're under a lot of stress all the time. These set points get set differently. They get used to different things, and then they come back. And interesting, the kind of the come back. These are set points. These are like you change the color of your hair. It's there. It's different. It's now a firm line. Very interesting thought. So I'm going to give you the list of just what this chronic stress does. We're going to talk about it a lot more Wednesday. This is kind of just a chat to kind of inspire you to really kind of, if you're trying to make healthy decisions, if you're trying to make lifestyle decisions, you have to have a reality check on if you're managing stress well. Like, you know, if you've had a long-term issue with a child, that's stress. And so what do we need to do along with all the other things that we're doing in order to kind of help manage the stress system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system? That's what we're going to work on part 3. So the list of what chronic stress does is increase belly fat. We're talking about visceral fat, dangerous fat. There is a very specific reason why the scale matters in this case. It's cytokines that this belly fat, you know, your love handles and the muffin top all produce cytokines. It actually increases inflammation, and fat releases estrogen, and nobody wants to be estrogen heavy. Food intolerances and food allergies increase with chronic stress. Leaky gut, which is just a whole like freight train you can just get ran over by. Elevated blood sugar, which leads to more belly fat, which leads to more hormonal and blah blah blah. Increased inflammation, anxiety and depression, again the runaway train. And then, oh my gosh, if you go to the doctor and say, hey, I have anxiety or depression, that's a different rabbit hole to fall down in. So an altered microbiome, so gut health, what stress just completely devastates the microbiome. And the point here real quick is that the diversity of the healthy bacteria in your body, diversity is key. Because they all do different things. Like there's one bug that deals with estrogen. How cool is that? Chronic stress is increased GERD, acid reflux, indigestion, ulcers, mostly because chronic stress wreaks havoc on the protective lipids, the mucosal lining of the gut. And then the freight train happens. Aggravated IBS symptoms. You become more sensitive to pain. You know, the gut is your second brain, and there's something that inflammation does, and it just makes you a little bit more irritated, more sensitive to pain. Increased risk for SIBO, interestingly enough, because it affects the intestinal lining, smooth muscle, and then so that movement out of, because the intestines go like this, through down, and so if you affect the movement of the gut, bad bacteria doesn't get out. And then lower immunity. Cortisol suppresses the immune system. So it's a hefty list that generally you get all of them when you have chronic stress, which is cray cray. So anyway, part 2 Wednesday is going to be on the physiological, a lot more in depth on physiologically what's going on with the hormones when we are under stress, and then what happens. We shift from a sharp reaction to a chronic reaction, who's involved with that, and why we get this laundry list. So hope you guys enjoyed our chatter on stress. What do you have to say, Redinas?
Man, this is stressful.
Hey, so what stresses you at? Did you come up with an answer?
Having some things that are, you know, like you put in a place, and then if somebody decides to borrow them, and the borrowing the stuff isn't the big deal. It's the not letting you know and not putting it back.
Not being able to find it later.
And then when you go later and you go to find it, and you're like, well, where is this? Where did I misplace it? Because you didn't realize somebody else borrowed it. That's probably a pretty good pet peeve, or maybe a lot of stress.
That's why BK needs a she shed, so she has her own tools.
I actually wasn't talking about her at all, but
she shed.
Anyways,
you heard it. She shed.
She gets plenty of, when she gets a tool out, it's like, hey, make sure you put that back.
Oh my God, all the time. Are you gonna put that back? You're gonna put that back?
Yeah, but I'm gonna use it. No, you're gonna put it back until you need it again, so that way we always know where it is.
She shed.
Yeah.
2-car she shed.
Wow, 2-car she shed.
Anyway, Wednesday, part dose. Hope you enjoyed. Let us know if you have any questions, thoughts, and any specific questions, and I will research and work to answer those questions specifically. Have a good Monday, folks.
Yeah.
Namaste. Are you going to do your 2 claps and a Ric Flair?
No. I'm going to say love you guys.
Okay. Bye. Ciao.